And the most common question you had, not that I can't guess, but what was the most common question you had from the media?
When's the power coming back on?
And the most common answer was?
As soon as we can. Now we would, that's always the difficult part, is to try, especially in the first 24 to 48 hours, because we're out there trying to assess exactly what we're going to do, so there's not a lot of answers in that first 24 hours, and it's tough. But in this particular case too, and the power is always an issue, obviously, but as the weeks progressed, and we had the tornado, and then of course the hurricane, or the remnants of Lee, we had other structural problems. Gas became a big problem in some of the flooded areas. The locks were a big problem. We had gas lines on those locks, and we couldn't provide gas service to quite a few communities. And of course, luckily, heat wasn't necessarily an issue, but a lot of these people wanted to take a hot shower as well, so they couldn't do that. So we had some other things other than electricity.
Julia, and you run an online news effort, but you took unusual steps to get ready as Hurricane Irene approached. What did you do?
Well, I don't know if anyone in this room has ever used Cover It Live. Okay, I see a couple of nods of recognition. We hadn't really used it much either. It's a web application that basically allows you to embed a little user interface into your web page. We have a normal sort of blog format. When we write news stories, which we do every day, they just stack and then they fall off the page at the bottom, and you can scroll back through time. What we did for Irene on Saturday, the day before the storm hit, or as the storm was hitting, which took forever, 12 hours up the coast, we decided to start a Cover It Live session. It's essentially a live stream that allows people to type in comments in real time that are moderated and that appear really quickly in a sort of mini. It's like Twitter. I mean, it's hard to describe this stuff, just without an example. If I showed it to you, you'd say, oh, that's a stack of comments going down the page really quick. Cover It Live, a session is moderated. Everybody who comments has to have somebody looking and going, okay, I approved this comment. At first we did it, but as we set up this session and got the word out that we were doing a live stream and anyone could comment and the barriers to entry were extremely low, the volume of use skyrocketed far past what we could accommodate ourselves. We, on the 28th, had about 2,000 people logged into just the Cover It Live session every minute. These people rotated in and out, but it was an average of about 2,000 for that day, for the first 3 days of that week, and it started to taper off about midweek to 1,000, and it stayed 1,000 for the rest of the time that we ran the session, which was for 10 days. We recruited and were just contacted by a bunch of volunteers that we had never interacted with before, mostly, who said, do you need help moderating this site? Do you need help? How can I help? And we eventually put together a team of about 10 core people who took shifts, which we facilitated, moderating the comments, letting things through. And these people, these volunteers, also became sort of ad hoc information centers. None of them were professionals, but they were acting in the role of a PR person, like what you were doing. They were essentially handling the same questions. Which roads are closed? When's the power going to go on? Where's my mom? There was a lot of that. My grandma's stranded on X road, help. And these guys and we would do our best, if nothing else, to respond. You could respond instantly saying, I think that road is, out, here's a map that we're linking to, that kind of thing, getting people information. The live blog was by far the fastest way in the Catskill region, which is what we cover at watershedpost.com, the way for information to get it, and for people to vet rumors that they were hearing. The most persistent rumor was that the Gilboa Dam had been broken. Maybe you guys heard about this. It came up again and again and again and again every couple hours for the first week. And people were constantly asking us, did the dam break? Am I going to drown? And we would say, last time we called the DEP, which was 5 minutes ago, right after you asked this, the dam is still not broken, everything's fine. So that was the unusual measure we took. We also, on top of that, published about 20 stories a day. Mostly photos gleaned. This was actually all me, my editor. I'm the publisher of the Watershed Post. My editor handled the live stream, and I handled regular reporting. Reporting was mostly the latest photos we could find, gleaned off of social media, mainly Facebook, which became an incredible source of information that we posted, sorted by town. Here are the latest photos we can find from Wyndham. Here are the latest photos we can find from Prattsville. This is the only photo I can find for Gilboa, but it looks like it proves that the dam hasn't broken, that kind of thing. We did that sort of coverage for 10 days, pretty much nonstop with the help of this team, and on a more regular, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. schedule for most of September.
And the reason you moderate the blog?
So, as you guys all know, unmoderated comments tend to go crazy, even in a situation where everyone is trying to have goodwill and get information out well. This was user-generated content of the freshest, most valuable kind, and we had to screen things on the off chance that dangerous, bad information would come through, that porn would come through, that kind of thing. For the most part, that didn't happen. I actually had I remembered something I didn't mention in our conversation. Very early on in the live blog, one troll did report erroneously that a couple of children had drowned in the town of Margaretville. This comment didn't make it through because we saw it and we thought, this doesn't smell right. We'll hold it. If we start hearing this from other people, if we can confirm it with anyone we trust, then we'll let it through, but this doesn't smell right. And indeed, it was a complete fabrication. I don't know why you would do that, but people do it. So that was the only real malicious piece of it.
Full-time staff of two part-timers. That's RIP 97.9. And we managed. I was at the station, let's see, the Saturday night before. So I stayed overnight. And then Sunday morning, I suspended programming as calls started to come in. I'm 400 feet above the Batavia Kill, which is the main, excuse me, the main creek that feeds into the Schoharie and into that water system, part of the watershed. When the calls started coming, we just suspended programming and went wall-to-wall coverage and took calls. Unbelievable volume of calls, most of which were requests for help. Thankfully I was able to put my journalism cap on and, vet the truth from the speculation. There was a lot of that going on. It was quite a time, and the entire communications infrastructure in our area had gone down. So people were getting their wind-up radios. Does anybody have a wind-up radio?
I do.
Okay, and the battery radios, and they started listening. So that's the way it went.
Yeah, my wife and I have an agreement. She gives me geek presents and I get her jewelry. Except for her birthday, she wanted an iPad, so she has that. So she has a.
I did want to say that prior to the storm, we had contacted our local emergency officials. We went out and we did preparation. Naturally, radio has to be ready for emergencies. By law, we have to be monitoring one another and monitor the National Weather Service for bulletins and whatnot. So we have a degree of preparedness. Obviously, we weren't ready for weren't as ready for the calamity as we might have wanted to be, but we made it through. We had called our emergency leaders and all the town officials, so they knew to get in touch with us when the power went out, and they did.
I don't know your physical structure.
Talk about all the prep you did because you knew the storm was coming, so you had time, but do you have a crisis plan for your communications in general that you fall back on as a framework for that, or what do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have a whole, I got a 400-page, it's not just communication, it's part of it.
Yeah, because you have a lot of other things.
We have a whole crisis plan that says, if you see this coming 2 days out, you do this, 3 days out, you do this, we do a release in the first 24 hours, release it for our piece of it.
For small operations, you probably just do it because you're it. You don't have a written communications crisis plan.
And I'll tell you, that's okay, but all these things are so different. It's like a lot of times it's more in the way. I mean, we're already doing the stuff that we know we're going to do, and then every once in a while somebody say, did you look in the book to see if we were supposed to do something in the last 24 hours? We have to do it. And I'm like, okay. So we get that done.
Yeah, but